Hey, and welcome back to Color Our World Blackened. This is episode 8. This time we'll be sending a package to Florence, Alabama to do a trade with the one and only Allan Peters. Before we get started with that, I'd like to give a big shout out to my friends Andrew and Colin. I got to meet them at the Landover show. They live in Pennsylvania, but their grandparents live a couple blocks down the road, so I told them if next time they're in Mascoutah to come on over. We'd hang out and I'd show them some Metallica stuff. That's exactly what they did. About a month later, they visited their grandparents, so their parents brought them on down. I got to show them some of my more rare stuff, but we didn't get through the whole collection. We'll take care of that next time, guys, but I just want to say it was great to meet you, and I had a lot of fun hanging out with you. All right, now let's get on with the trade. I've been looking forward to doing this one for a long time because Allan Peters is one of my absolute favorite people I've met along that road. We met a little less than 8 years ago along the Black Ticket run, but Allan's been at it a lot longer than that. He saw his first show in Huntsville, Alabama in 1989, and I think his current total is 58 shows. Allan lives in Florence, Alabama, which is just across the Tennessee River from Muscle Shoals, and if you know and understand the historical significance of the Shoals area there, you'll understand why I'm thrilled to be doing this trade with someone that was born right there. If you don't know the music history associated with the Shoals area there, do yourself a deep dive and you'll learn a lot. You'll be amazed. Now, I could go on and on with stories of our adventures since we met, but I'm going to spare you those details. If I start, I just won't know where to stop. But I am going to tell you one Allan Peters story, the one that means the most to me when his package arrives, and it's kind of tied to what's included in the package. And the pretext of how we got to this being the next trade is a bit of a story in and of itself. If you've been following the channel, you're familiar with my friend Albert and his story. For those of you who don't know, my good friend Albert became terminally ill, and just before he passed away, he invited me over to his house and he gave me his entire Metallica collection to be used in our project here because he just loves the concept of the Color Our World Blackened project. And what he loves so much about it, more than the items themselves, are the interactions with other people and the fact that we're going to be going all around the world and doing them. He couldn't get enough of it. He really loved the idea. And that same interaction is the reason for this channel. It's the ultimate foundation of why I started in the first place. There was one condition that he asked for, and that was that a trade would be done with 3 specific individuals, and Allan was the first person he named. They never got a chance to actually meet each other, but they did become friends on Facebook, and they'd go back and forth in Messenger. But Albert always said he felt like he's known Allan his whole life from all the things I've told him and their interactions, and Allan felt the same way about Albert. So this was going to be a great trade. I really wish that Albert could have seen some of the trades done with the items from his collection, but that's just not the way it went. He went downhill shortly after he gave me the records, so now we'll be doing this in his memory, and in that way we'll be keeping his spirit alive. Shortly after Albert's celebration of life, I got a hold of Allan, and we started working out the details of our trade. I ran through every item that Albert had given me, and it was quite a big stack. So it took a minute. When I was done, Allan did not hesitate one bit. He said, "I want the Jump in the Fire picture disc." And I kind of laughed and said, "Well, I was just kind of letting you know that I have that. I really wasn't even trying to include that in the items for trade because, as I told you," and here it is, "it's got a pretty nasty crack right here. It's not totally broken. The picture from the picture disc is holding it together, but there's a crack right across there." And his response was, "I heard you loud and clear. I understand, but I'm never going to plan on selling it. I'll probably put it in a frame. I want that record." It was good enough for Albert to keep, and I'd be proud to own it. When I heard him say that, I wasn't really surprised. That is classic Allan Peters. He doesn't really think outside the box. In Allan's world, there is no box. When he told me what he was thinking about offering for the record, I smiled, thinking of the story that I'm going to tell you when his package arrives. We instantly agreed. I didn't tell Allan this, but I knew when I was making the agreement for the trade that I was probably going to throw something else in. I just wasn't sure what. The Jump in the Fire is cool. I mean, you might be able to throw it on eBay and get 20 bucks. It's got a little value, if any. That's a pretty nasty crack. But that's not the value that Allan sees in it. But as far as keeping the trade fair, I just wouldn't feel right without throwing something in. I started thinking about it, and it didn't take long for a light bulb to go off in my head. I have another friend, Mike Warning. He passed away 23 years ago, and he was a huge Iron Maiden fan. A couple years ago, his mother passed away, and she gave me his entire Iron Maiden collection, knowing that Allan's favorite Iron Maiden song is Run to the Hills. He's a huge Maiden fan himself. I just started rooting around in the collection for a Run to the Hills related type thing, and this is what I came up with. It's a German 12-inch EP maxi single, whatever you want to call it. It says maxi single right here, of Run to the Hills. So I'm going to throw that in on top of it, and I'll feel a little better at night. One other thing I'm going to put in the box is it's dated 1939. It's a road map of Alabama. So it's a vintage road map, and he needs it a lot more than I do. And I've been telling him about it for years, and I finally found it. I shouldn't be unfolding this in front of you, but there it is. And this isn't part of the trade. It's just going to ride shotgun. I'm going to throw it in the box. So, Allan, I finally found it. So all we need are some supplies. We got a mailer and some backer boards. Let's get this thing wrapped up. Alrighty, that should do it. I got it packed and all stamped up. I just love postage stamps. That's my favorite part about sending packages. So here we go. Allan Peters, representing Florence, Alabama, coming at you, my brother.
Hey Mike, look what I got. Gonna do this in one take. Hopefully I don't mess it up. Hopefully I don't really mess it up. Alabama style. Hello to Mom. I hope she's feeling better. Tell her I said hello. Uh-oh, good job. I'm making myself nervous. It's my first time. Cool. Messing up your video. Alright, let's see what they look like. Cool. Old school, old school. Sweet. Bonus. What is this? Alabama map. Jump in the fire. Run to the hills. My favorite Maiden song ever. Sweet. Sweet, sweet. Thank you, Mike. Color Alabama Blackened.
And that was my boy Allan Peters in Florence, Alabama. Good job on the video, Allan. I know you were a little nervous. Allan doesn't necessarily talk much, but when he does speak, he says with minimal words, he says an awful lot, and that's one of the things I love about him. Allan's package arrived safely, and before we get to opening this thing, I want to say if I look a little thicker than I did at the beginning of the episode, it's because I gained about 10 pounds in the last 2 weeks. I've been laying around doing absolutely nothing. The day after I sent Allan his package, I had a surgery, and the surgery rendered me useless for a couple weeks, and useless and toothless. During the surgery, I don't know what happened, if I was gritting down when they were chopping on me, or if they had a breathing tube in, they might have hit my bridge, but as soon as I got home from the hospital, my bridge came out. The very first thought that entered my mind was episode 8. It's never going to get complete. It's been long enough. You know, I thought I was going to have to call and make the appointment, get the bridge put back in before we could proceed. I thought about it for a little bit, and it didn't take me long to realize that there are an awful lot of people out there with a lot of real serious problems, and thankfully, I'm not one. So I'm going to apologize now if my speech is a little off, but it's just not that big of a deal. So let's get down to the reason we're here. We're going to open Allan's package, but I just remembered, I told you I've got one Allan Peters story that I would share with you, and I'm going to do that before I open the package. My all-time favorite Allan story takes place at the S&M 2 weekend. I ended up with a super cool surprise hookup for the Friends and Family room. So night 2, after the show, we were in the Friends and Family room. And they'll clear out the whole venue before they kick everybody out of the F&F room. So we were in there a little later than we should have been. By the time we made it back to the train platform, we realized that we had missed our train. It was about 2 in the morning, and when they shut down the venue lights completely, there was no light left except the street lights. There wasn't anybody to be seen anywhere except right on the corner. There was a little group of people, maybe 6 or 7 people, and Michelle happened to notice that one of those people was Allan. So we walked on down the train platform across the street and walked up. "What are you doing here?" I wasn't even paying attention to what was behind him. He smiled real big and said, "You guys missed the train too, huh?" He motioned with his head, kind of to say, "Look behind me." He didn't say anything. He just nodded. And when I looked over his shoulder, there was Ray Burton and a couple of his people. He was waiting for his Uber to pick him up. When I looked over at him, he looked up, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Ray, I've seen y'all around the town this weekend. I didn't want to bother you." And he said, "Come on over, you're no bother." So we stepped on over and we had a really cool conversation. We got to hang out with Ray for 10 or 15 minutes, and before it was over, Allan said, "Hey, let's get a picture." And I said, "Well, you get in the picture too. One of these guys will take it." He said, "No, I'm supposed to take the picture. Get in there, Michelle." So Michelle came over, and Michelle, Ray, and I took a picture, and then shortly after that, Ray's Uber arrived, and he drove off. And something I'd like to say about the Uber real quick. Here you have Metallica royalty. He could easily have been taken care of, but 2 a.m. San Francisco streets, he's waiting for his Uber. That screams independence and character of Mr. Ray Burton. In case you don't know, that's Cliff Burton's father, but I think you all know that. He's one of, if not the absolute most respected and revered member of MetFam in history. As they drove away, the three of us just kind of stood there looking at each other back and forth, and I said, "Do you realize what just happened?" And Allan said, "I'm trying to wrap my head around it." And what I meant by that was, we're the last fans that got to say goodnight to Ray Burton at the S&M 2 shows. I thought that was really cool. And as you probably know, it wasn't long after that Mr. Burton passed away. So the picture that Allan took of Michelle and I is the last picture taken with fans and Ray Burton at a Metallica show. And I'm not trying to, one-up anything. It's not a competition. Anyone who's ever met Ray Burton knows that's one of the greatest experiences of meet and greet you could possibly have. So it's not a competition. But that is a bookend that the three of us are very honored to be. And so that probably gives away what might be in the box. It's probably got something to do with Cliff Burton. And it does. But let's see what it is. I got the old Albert syndrome. I can't figure out how to operate a knife. If you watch the first episode, he made that very comment. He was trying to work a knife on the box, and he wasn't succeeding very good. And I want to say I'm really happy that Albert's broken record ended up in the hands of someone who can appreciate it as much as Albert did. And what do we have? Cliff Burton. These are the Super 7 action figures that came out in I think it was about 2022. There's a few of these out there, a few variations, and this is the Cliff 'em All, I believe. I believe this is the Cliff 'em All variant and the Ride the Lightning variant. They came out in 2022. There are a couple other variations. I never took the time to chase them down and pick them up. They're not super rare or anything, but when Allan mentioned that he wanted the broken record, it didn't have a heck of a lot of value. So I asked him if he still had these. I knew that he purchased them when they came out. I said, "Hey, would you put those on the table?" And he said, "I'd be happy to. That'd be a great trade." So looks like we got one more item. A shirt. This could be anything. And I should have known. This will speak to the magic that is the networking of MetFam. In 2000, I think it was 2019 in Raleigh on the Black Ticket run. Might have been 2018, the Raleigh show. I don't quite remember, but I met Kyle Harvey, and he was in a band Prep and Barium. Don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're an incredible band, and they're really making waves in the North Carolina area. And I asked Allan, do you know Kyle Harvey? I got to know Kyle really well, and then I ended up meeting Matt and finally getting to meet all the other guys. But I asked Allan if he knew Kyle Harvey, and he said, I don't believe I do. And I said, man, you and your personalities is just going to line up. You got to shoot this guy a message. And he did that. And next thing you know, they're fast friends. And Allan's going out on tour with them on the road. So he's their honorary roadie. And he sent me a Prep and Barium shirt. So big shout out to the guys in Prep and Barium. Kyle, we're probably going to do a trade with you with one of Albert's records too. Allan, this really seals the deal, brother. Thank you so much. Now let's get on to it. So there we have it. Alabama has now been color blackened thanks to our friend Allan Peters. Allan, I want to say thanks for being a part of this, but more importantly, just thanks for being you. Don't change that. I want to say hey to Miss Charlotte. That's my friend Albert's wife. And I want to thank Albert once again. Rock on, rest in peace, brother, for donating your collection to the project. Something crossed my mind as I was shading in Alabama. And the two young guys that I gave a shout out to at the beginning of the episode, Colin and Andrew, well, boys, your grandparents tell me you're coming to visit this summer. So when you get here to Mascoutah, walk on down and pick up your Cliff Burton action figures. As much as I love these things, I think you guys are going to love them a little more. Paul and Sammy, I always say good parents raise good kids, and you guys are doing a stellar job. Just keep on doing what you do. As always, I'd like to say thank you for watching. If you like what we have going on here, we'd appreciate it greatly if you consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a like, a dislike, whatever the case may be. Leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Next episode, we're going to go north of the border to do a trade with my go-to guy, my friend Dustin Stroll in Toronto, Canada. We'll see you there. Until then, rock on.
Blackened! Blackened!